Okay, let's look at some of the selection tools that you have available to you. These are just some of the basic ones that you'll be working with for now. We have our lasso tool, L on the keyboard. So if we select it, if it's hidden behind polygonal lasso tool that you were using earlier, make sure that you are right-clicking on the tool and selecting the lasso tool. This tool just allows you to get really close into areas of your images and then freehand select the area that you want to work with. So with your mouse, you click on the area where you want to start and then freehand across the area that you want to work with. So similar to the marquee tool and the polygonal lasso tool that we already worked with, but this allows you to more specifically and with more detail select an area to work with. And if you really want to get detailed, this has some very interesting properties that you can work with. Another way that we can select sections is with the magical wand tool, W on your keyboard. So if we click that guy, this allows you to select larger areas or even smaller areas, all that are defined by the same color. So similar to the when you did with your paint bucket tool, I can select the area where the clouds are in because it's defined by this white, by the black line around the cloud. I can also select different areas, not necessarily just the white ones, but if you have something that is of similar color with boundaries, it will select it pretty quickly. Now let's look at brushes. So let's say we're going to work with the boy's hair here, and I'm going to select our brush that we already worked with before, B on the keyboard. Remember that you have a variety of options at the top of the screen in the brush picker. You can change the size of our brush. We were using the general brushes before, and they're pretty standard kind of tools that you would find in brush and pencil modes. Additional brushes that we have this little icon at the top, this little brush or an eraser. So if I select this Kyle's Eraser Natural Edge, it will switch the tool to an eraser rather than the brush that we had already selected. So be careful when you're picking the brushes for different effects that you want to use. Keep an eye out for that little icon that it is actually a brush that you want to work with rather than an eraser or something along those lines like a smudge tool. It will provide you with very different effects from what you may be looking for. So if we decided to go with, let's say, this splatter tool, it's right now at a very big size. I can change the size of it so that it's smaller, and it will give me a splatter effect. So like the marquee that we were using earlier, let's change the color so it's clearer. It will only paint in the area that we have selected. Want to change the size of the brush. That's one way we can work. And all I'm doing is just tapping on the mouse to get the splatter onto the area that I have defined. I can change the opacity, so how see-through my brush is, and these are significantly more see-through. So if I'm laying the splatters over top of each other, they are painting as though it's paint laid on top of one another. Let's look at our pencil tool. Pencil, just like any other pencil, can allow us to paint and draw. And I am just like the brush. We still have our different pickers that we can work with here. I can use these different pencil tools that if I want at the top. So these sort of very generic ones. I'm going to go with just a soft round one to keep things simple. I'm going to change the opacity to somewhere in the middle. I like working with sort of semi-transparent materials because they allow me to layer color on top of it. So I'm going to start working on the ear of the dog. I'm going to change that color to kind of a brownish reddish tone. And because my opacity is at 52, maybe I want it a little bit more transparent. Yeah, I'm going to go down to 19 because the ear is small. I'm going to get in, and I'm going to create a new layer. We want to make sure that we are creating new layers when we're painting things because it allows us to, first, when it's transparent, it allows me to make sure that I am preserving whatever is underneath that paint. So I'm just going to lay down a layer of kind of transparent brownish red tone. And then because it's transparent, it'll allow me to, when I put down a new layer, to look as though I am adding darker tones and darker values. If you want, you can even make these brushes smaller so that I can get a little more refined look, better when it's higher resolution. Because again, the smaller the resolution, the less pixels you have to work with. So I'm going to paint that in, add darker value, and once I have that done, once I have the values that I want to work with or built, I am creating sort of the effect of depth and maybe a little bit of texture. To refine that, I can go into my smudge tool. That's one way of smudging and refining the value between the pencil layers that I have put down and getting a nicer, smoother look of that ear. Now, one of the things that's with the layer, I have made sure that I have not disturbed the bottom part or the background layer, and I've given myself nice clean lines under that pencil color. Had I not done that, these two layers would have been merged. The layer would have been merged with the background, and when I went over with the smudge tool, I would have actually smudged in or smudged off the black line and would have lost that completely. So again, layers are very, very important.